1 million Brits are in arrears trying to pay household bills, according to shocking new YouGov data commissioned by the national debt help charity Christians Against Poverty. And a further 4.5 million people have mainly been using credit to pay for their monthly bills in the last 6 months. When we talk about a cost of living crisis, my friends, it is very, very real.
Absolutely. Well, we're joined now by Regional Leader for Christians Against Poverty, Lorraine Papaioannou, and father of two, Anthony Evans, who's been struggling with debt. Anthony, thanks so much for joining us this morning to talk about your situation. Can you just tell us how bad it's got?
Just over 3 years ago, I got into over £10,000 debt, and I didn't know how to pay that off. I wasn't looking. I stopped looking at the bills since CAP came along. Things got a lot better. They helped me to work out how to that the impossible situation was actually sortable. But yeah, I mean, it still gets...
Can I jump in, Christian? Yeah. Sorry, can I just jump in, my friend? Sorry. Lorraine, I'll get to you in just a tick. I think debt's a really important thing to talk about. And I think it's very easy for us to assume you come on television, you're going to outline it, right? It's difficult, and I absolutely get that. Very quickly, a couple of questions, make it easy for you. How did you get into debt? Was it bills? Was it your own expenditure? What was it?
It was... For me, I pretty much closed my eyes to how I was spending, but it got to a point where I couldn't go shopping. I had to make sure that I went shopping like once a week, or I limited how often I'd go shopping, because I couldn't afford the basics anymore.
Lorraine, can I bring you in? And I want to say this for a reason. This is not. To me, it's not about being Christian, and I'm being completely straight with you. There are millions and millions of people in this country who do not get the help, the guidance, the understanding. One of my bugbears, don't know if Nicola knows this, is why we don't in our damn schools teach people how to budget. My mother taught me. I know it's really boring. She used ins and outs, credit and debit, and she had a book, and that's how they did it. Credit is so available. Everybody's got a smartphone. It's easy to get into debt. You put on top of that a cost of living crisis. It's a disaster, isn't it?
Yeah, it's an absolute disaster. You're quite right, and this isn't any surprise at all for us at Christians Against Poverty. We see this day in, day out, and this report that we're launching today just shows we're looking for the first time at the effect on living standards that debt and poverty bring. We're just seeing how debt drives people into poverty, and it's all starting with low incomes. Households on low incomes and people in jobs, in low-income jobs, are now being driven into debt and poverty just because they're trying to put their essential bills, nothing extra or essential, onto credit to survive. And that very quickly becomes unmanageable and out of control.
And Lorraine, according to this report, are you seeing that people in rural towns are suffering more than people who live in cities? Like, what's the demographic breakdown, really, of the people who are struggling the most?
Do you know, to be honest, it's all such an individual thing. Every individual client matters to us, and their own personal situation is always different and always individual. But what we're finding is it's a combination of those low incomes, and it's not just people on benefits. It's because our incomes are so low now that there's a tipping point when the income is not sufficient to allow people to pay their essential bills. They then start putting it on credit. And to be honest, we see it with our rural centres, we see it with our inner city centres as well. Across the East Midlands, we've got centres here. In Leicester, we've got 3 city centres, debt centres, but we also have centres in places like Ilkeston and Retford and across in Boston. And we're finding that clients are presenting with the same problems, and it produces the same feelings of despair, isolation, shame and guilt. And it's absolutely not their fault. They're simply trying to survive, and we want them to thrive at CAP.
Lorraine, sorry, Nick, I was just going to say, I really admire anybody. I didn't want to make it about religion. I admire anybody because I do think there's a lot of people, and I think that there is people feel shame. There will be instances, let's be perfectly honest, where people, you know, put stuff on credit because they're not aware of things. There are other people who are irresponsible. But I mean, you raised a really good point there. I want to talk about benefits. I want to talk about jams. I talk about every day, just about managing these people. The mum, dad works, the dad works, the kids are at school, and they struggle to even eat. There was that, you know, this thing about they're saving food for their kids. This is a reality, and these people pay all their bills and are struggling themselves and don't get a penny from the state. And I think those people always deserve a shout out. I really do.
Yeah, you're absolutely spot on there. And that's why we have debt centres. We've got 12 debt centres across the East Midlands. As I say, 3 here in Leicester. We've got them dotted around towns and cities in the East Midlands. And the big message from us really is, if you are struggling, even if you haven't started yet on the debt journey, or maybe you're just beginning to realise that your income, even though you're working, is not sufficient, don't sit there alone. Please don't feel that there's no help available. We've got a website, capuk.org, all lowercase, capuk.org. Start there. And there's some incredible advice and help there. One of the things as well for people on benefits is something people don't know. There's about £19 billion of unclaimed benefit going around the system. And some people don't realise they could be entitled to some stuff that they didn't even realise they could get. So go on our website, capuk.org, and just put into the search bar benefits calculator, and you might find we're finding hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of unclaimed benefits for people who didn't realise they were even entitled. So that's a practical tip. But certainly we've got these debt centres all the way across the Midlands, East Midlands. Please get in touch with us. We've got a helpline as well, 0800 428 6000. Please just put in Christians Against Poverty into a Google search. There is help out there. There's hope out there. As you said, we're the Christians. You don't have to be. You can be of any faith or no faith at all. You'll find a very non-judgmental and a really loving, helping response. But don't sit there alone, because most of our clients, that's how they feel, and we want to see that they get help.
Good advice.
And Anthony, just really quickly, can you talk to us about how Lorraine and the charity were able to help you specifically?
Pretty much they've taught me that I can have savings. The other year when I needed to put my car into through MOT and through repairs, I get into the stressful place thinking I can't deal with this, in a similar way to when I couldn't read over my letters to see what the bills were. So I phoned CAP like last minute again as usual. I can't afford to put my car through, and I had the savings. I had the savings there. They had the savings put away. And
so they were actually there. It's often just a case of feeling so overwhelmed.
So it's Samaritans. It's for you, if you're in a position where you think you're the only person in a hole, being able to talk to somebody that can be, practical is useful. Both of you, thank you, Lorraine and Anthony. Really appreciate you being on. It is an absolute fact of life that millions of people in this country are struggling. Talk to somebody. Seriously, I'm telling you, it's great advice.